Thank you for joining the Heartline.info report on AEDs. Hey everybody, Steve Larvick, Affordable Medical Equipment and San Diego AED. I'm here today again with Enrique Christopherson, who is the Territorial Sales Manager for Cardiac Science here in San Diego and Imperial Counties. Welcome, Enrique.
Hello, Steve.
Hey, good to talk to you again. Today I wanted to go into detail on the one of the most critical elements of the AED, of any AED, and in particular with the Cardiac Science PowerHeart G3, and that's the electrode pads. Could you talk a little bit to the technology that's in place with the G3 electrode pads, or basically I think they're interchangeable on any Cardiac Science product, but could you go into detail on those a little bit?
Absolutely, Steve. One of the features that makes our AEDs the easiest device to actually operate, one of the elements are the pads. Our pads have a patent feature on it where they're non-polarized or non-specific sided, which means that it doesn't matter where you place the pads on the victim's chest. Every other AED manufacturer will have specific pads, like for example, one will go on the upper right part of the chest and the other pad must be placed on the lower left side of the thorax. Our Cardiac Science pads, again, as I mentioned, they're interchangeable. And what the benefit for the rescuer is, it reduces the thinking part, which we all know during cardiac arrest, every second is critical. We want to try to shave as much time as possible and try to get that defibrillator to defibrillate that victim as soon as possible. So without having the rescuer thinking and reading instructions where to place the pads, if one goes in one direction, the other pad slaps on the other spot, and then the device will go ahead and start analyzing.
Right, and there's so little time when somebody has an event, a heart attack, that the last thing you want to do is have to worry about someone messing up on placing one on the wrong place and one on. I mean, you have to figure out where to put them in the first place. Having to put one on one side, one on the other side, I think would be pretty confusing.
Yeah, it can be, especially during a cardiac arrest, which is it could be a very chaotic situation and a lot of pressure on the rescuer. And the last thing that the rescuer should be doing is thinking.
Yeah,
so let's let the AED do that for them.
I believe that that's one of the most important advances that Cardiac Science made for as you call it, lay people, or not medical professionals who most of the time are going to be administering the shocks from these units. Anyway, Enrique, thank you for enlightening us on that. There was one other question. The Cardiac Science pads have a limited shelf life. They're going to stay in the unit, but they use a gel, and they don't last forever. How, this thing could be sitting on the wall for 3 months, a year and a half. How are people going to know that the pads are good when they use it?
Well, first of all, every AED in the industry uses a water-based gel pad, which is a liquid sticky substance. We want a good contact from pad to the patient's bare skin. We use water-based, and when I say we, we're talking about the entire industry, even my competitors' devices. The water is used as a conduit from electricity from the AED to the patient's thorax. The problem with a water-based gel, that over time, they're going to dry up. So typically, AED electrode pads will have an expiration date of 2 years. However, the PowerHeart device will check for functionality of the pad, which makes our device very unique in the industry, which is another patent feature that we have. And it's going to test for hydration and stickiness for the pads. If you have dry pads, and you're using that on a rescue, and those pads fail, that patient may die. The only way of checking for the functionality of the pads is actually putting it on a patient. Now, Cardiac Science feels that this is not the time to know if your pads will or will not work.
Excellent. Got it. Enrique, once again, thank you for coming on and enlightening us. Folks, we've been talking with AED expert Enrique Christopherson of Cardiac Science, and we will be back with another installment on pediatric pads. Thanks, Enrique.
Thank you, Steve.
This has been the Heartline.info report. Thank you for joining us, and if you would like to sign up for future broadcasts, please go to www.heartline.info. That's www.heartline.info, heartline.info, and sign up today.